First of all, it is a great pleasure for me to be here. And I see a lot of young faces, which is also a double pleasure. Atta is videotaping, so if anybody has any objection being on YouTube later on, it's going to be on my website, then hide your faces somehow. So I have to make a good confession. I think that's necessary for putting it into context. In my previous life, I was an economic consultant for the Plan Organization of Iran, for that wonderful organization where Dr. Shapur Rasikh was at the head of it, and a lot of Baha'i angels were in that organization. When I married, I lived in Germany sometime, and then I came to US. I realized that in order to really be able to serve, I needed to have the language of the writing, having the privilege of being in the presence of scholars like Dr. Dawoodi, Ishraq Khavari, Hands of the Cause. I mean, we were really living with angels, studying with Dr. Ghadimi. All of these gave me a language of the writings. But when I came here, I was in a society where science was also very prevalent. I realized that I just don't have the language of science to bridge these two together. So with one without the other is really a bird with one wing. So I decided that I need to go and venture another journey. So when I started my graduate program, obviously the head of the department asked me, why are you switching? I said, you know, I have had a mystical background, spiritual background, and I want now to bring into the science and marry these two together. And she said, don't you ever mention that word again. She meant spiritual. It was 1980s, so I've been practicing for 30 years. At that time, God was dead. Marriage was not really something important. One after the other, this tree of our classroom, the leaves were falling, just one after the other. By the time the fourth year, hardly anybody was married. I owe my own survival to the fact that every time after each class, I was going to the spiritual assembly. And just right there was a completely change of atmosphere. So the contrast was very obvious, and so therefore my compass would get readjusted. Because all of us are really susceptible to influences, especially if there's a whole crowd of people going one way and you're the only one. It's very difficult. The trend that the whole thing was going was not really in line with my mystical, spiritual background. So these two were clashing. Part of my training was at the hospital. And the head of this department read the journals or charts of each of the patients, and then he would know who's suicidal for what reason and their history. So he would bring him in, and this was called a psychodrama. So what he would do, he would read the chart, and then he would know why this woman has decided to kill herself, so she was in the hospital. He would call the person, tell a story about why she thought that she was there. And for example, he would start saying, oh yes, okay, your mother was the source of your misery, and she did all of this to you. It almost, to me, sounded like a Rozakhuni. Those of you who know a Rozakhuni, you know, in Iran, when they gather, the Muslims gather in order to mourn the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, somebody starts telling the sad story of how Imam Hussein died. And that really bringing all those images into the mind of the people there. Science, now we know that. It will make you really go wild. And then you start beating yourself, and everybody starts crying, and the whole thing is a scene. So this psychodrama seemed to me a lot like that. Like, really, I never saw Abdu'l-Baha anyway talking about stuff like that. I was trying to constantly compare these two worlds. And then this one went on until one day, this supervisor was doing his psychodrama, and then this woman who was supposed to be getting mad at her mother, she started screaming completely a different way. She said, I have been coming here for 6 years. Now I realized, 6 years? That's a lot. I have been coming here for 6 years, and every time I'm cussing at my mother, and nothing got better. And she had this bat in her hand, she was just beating the whole thing. And I thought to myself, that's it, that's my answer. That's my answer. This is not working. At that time, it was very much prevalent, and now has changed, thank God, because of neuroscience. And when somebody was angry, the word and expression that we framed it in was, you have to get your anger out. As though it was some kind of a dagger or something like that, and you need to get it out. And in order to get it out, the idea was, you have to really get enraged, and then that gets out. Which right now, completely understood that person gets exhausted, basically, and they just fall apart. So it really doesn't deal with it. But now go to the writings, and I see that there's completely different way of dealing with anger at that time. Abdu'l-Baha says, stay away from it. Baha'u'llah says, stay away from it like a lion. And I thought, okay, this is not working. I need to go really figure out my own way of how these two works, because my schooling was not going to give it to me. And then I made another interesting mistake and boo-boo, which I had no idea. I had a colleague that was Baha'i and member of an assembly, and young and very educated. I was asked to go do some parenting classes in Canada for 9 days. I thought to myself, it would be nice if I can take somebody else with me. I asked this colleague, I said, would you be willing to come with me? And the two of us will do these parenting classes for 9 days. She said, oh yes. So I said, that's nice, doing it together would be nice. So I would go over there, and we had one nice time. We did the classes, everything, we came back. And then sometime later, somebody asked me, they wanted counseling. I said, I'm not there. And they said, would you refer anybody? I said, oh yeah, actually I know somebody over there. And we worked together. Why don't you go to that person? They went over there, and then this colleague of mine called me and said, Keyvan, I am a Baha'i, I am a psychologist, I do work as a psychologist, but I don't bring in the faith into the business. I do it exactly as they taught me in school. So don't refer anybody to me who is expecting integration of these two. And so that was another lesson I learned, that, okay, I need to respect the boundaries of my colleagues. And I have a lot of Baha'i colleagues who exactly have told me that this is the line. So don't mix them together. I say, okay. Until some years ago, a wonderful development happened in the whole field. It's amazing what neuroscience has done to converging it towards the faith. But one of the people that I really appreciate is Dr. John Gottman. And his book I recommend to everybody of Baha'is. Doesn't have the principles and teachings of the faith, because it's only science and it's only research. You can easily bring them together. Gottman is not a therapist, he's a researcher. He started at the University of Washington. Basically, he and another colleague, they wanted to know, how do couples go through different experiences as they live together? So they made a room like a bed and breakfast kind of a place, and they wired the people all kinds of ways to know how their blood pressure goes up and what happens to their hormones, videotaping them, what goes on with them as they live through the day. And as a result of this research, they came out to really find out what are some of the ways that the whole notion of psychotherapy for couples not working. And all the things that I thought, because of the teaching, was not working, he figured out is not working. Now, what I like to do is ask some of you, but how many of you came as a couple? I just want to see. Okay, so hold on. How many of you are in your second marriage? Okay. How many here, by any chance, is going through divorce? So basically, nobody is going through divorce. That's very important for me, because as a therapist, that space of going through divorce is not a very easy space, and people's mind are already preoccupied with stuff. So I don't find it to be very safe if we can put a whole bunch of people who are celebrating their marriages and somebody who's going through that is just a very conflicting spirit. I am dedicating this workshop talk to my beloved, dearly friends in Iran. I have a whole bunch of students, and then these students all come with families, and their families, and their friends that they call me and say, oh, can my friend talk to you also? Can my mom talk to you also? Can my grandparents talk to you also? I'm learning more and more as I'm dedicating more time to talk with them and interview them, that they have really been squished quite a bit by all that is happening. And I discovered that they are not at liberty to talk to each other because of the danger, that they would rather not to know about each other's situation. So that created a lack of support for each one of them emotionally. And as a therapist, I know one of the most powerful elements of doing well mentally and spiritually is support. Your resilience is a lot more when you have support. That's why we have in the Baha'i marriage consent of the parents, right? How long was us to have support of these people, 4 people who told us, yeah, they can marry and we're going to be supporting them. That means we will be seeing only the positive and we will make sure that they will succeed. We will never get into the zone of criticizing any of them. That's what support means. So they don't have support.
And what do they, can they go counseling in Iran?
Okay, that's a wonderful question you asked me. I was in China some years ago doing some talks at universities. There was a wonderful Baha'i friend of mine in Shanghai who was doing psychotherapy. Later on, she went to Europe. So I just visited Barcelona last year, and she told me that you just put a name on any room and then you get busy counseling. So there's no checks and balances the way it is in US, and no rigorous study that we have in US. In Iran is the same way. My students graduate from undergraduate, from barely know what right hand and left hand, they all get into psychotherapy. In US, 4 categories of people who do psychotherapy. Marriage family therapists, social workers, psychologists, psychiatrists. After graduate school, the marriage family therapist has to have 3,000 hours of training under a supervisor. That means 5 years. Then you have to go take a test, an exam, to get your license. And then every 2 years, you have to have 32 hours of continued education in order to sustain your license. So it's for me, when somebody says, I do psychotherapy over there, that's just like some grandma sitting there and wanting to talk to you, or some friend wants to hear you. I'm sure all of you came with some expectations. So I want to hear a few expectations that you came with.
To learn something.
That's not specific.
That means no expectation, maybe.
Yeah, you just came with open mind.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Anyone else? Yes?
Gain some clarity.
Clarity on what?
Clarity on, like you were talking about, interweaving the Baha'i writings with marriage family therapy.
Baha'i-inspired psychotherapy, how's that?
There you go.
Yes.
I like how you mentioned support with the Baha'is in Iran, not feeling that because they're afraid to express it, just support in general. How
So that's the importance of support.
Yes.
Okay.
Better improve communication between
Communication. Okay, what else?
Parental role in the marriage of children.
Okay. Be more specific? That's a huge subject.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay, so you want just me to Yes.
Some of the behaviors and language of those in successful, resilient marriages.
Okay. Gottman calls them masters or disasters. So this is masters. Yes.
I think it's part of the manners thing, avoiding criticism or criticism and encouragement, the relationship between these two things.
The whole notion of criticism.
Yeah, exactly. The whole notion of it, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Anger management in relationships.
Anger management with the police. How's that?
How to apply the rules of Baha'i consultation to marriage.
Rules, I would put the word rule because that makes it different in Baha'i consultations. Your handouts has a special 2 pages that I created many years ago, 30 ways of opening a consultation, yes.
Reacting with your children that are now teenagers and young adults.
Is it okay if I say parenting older children?
Okay, sure.
By the way, I would model for you how to listen, right? Because you can start saying something, but if it is not clear to me, there's a way of making sure that I would become clear, and ultimately, I have to make sure that what I decide it is that you're saying, that you agree with it. And it's very important.
I wonder if there's time and opportunity, you could discuss some tools for people who aren't yet married but would like a strong marriage, a high investigation versus like what happens in the general society. I know that they're different, but I don't know what proper investigation looks like, and I feel like at that stage, if you can be making wise choices, you can set yourself up for a good marriage. And what happens if you meet someone who's interesting, how to maybe have the tools to be talking to them about what's important.
So is it okay if I say preparation for Baha'i marriage?
Absolutely.
Okay. By the way, I have several YouTube videos on that.
Cool.
Preparation for Baha'i marriage. Some of the figures, yes.
So, like you see, like between Baha'i rules and what is actually their like a scientific or like societal rules. How, like, is it going to be like a way to define what you mean in the language of the people of the society, some kind of like that?
I'm trying to figure out how would I be summarizing that. How about living the life?
Yeah, maybe that's a good one.
Okay. I'm glad you agree with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to write it, right? Living the life among the dead. No, I'm just kidding. Not lies. So, yes, Carlos.
Do's and don'ts during the arguments between two people, could be couples, parents and children.
I think he's talking about boundaries in communication, not crossing boundaries, or what are the boundaries, how you set the boundaries.
Okay. Anything else? Yes.
To piggyback on support, the role of Baha'i institutions, or let's say.
Oh, I see. So peer support from people, individuals, and institutions. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Role of forgiveness. Forgiving.
Okay. By the way, I have a whole workshop on forgiveness also on YouTube, which I did at Luhanan High School some years ago. Yes.
And how do you set expectations in a Baha'i marriage?
Expectations, huh? You say that's good enough today?
Yes. More than enough.
I'm going to use Gottman's frame. And he talks about what are the research shows about red flags in a marriage? What are the danger zones? And unfortunately, all of them are covered in the Baha'i writings, thank God. So I like to start with this story because that sets the whole tone. So I'm going to use this star because you see it over there, and I use this a lot because this is a wonderful tool I use. Some years ago, I decided that this is a good interface between the writings and the science, especially when it comes to cognitive behavioral therapy approach. That's the approach that I like the best because it's closest as it can come to the science. So cognitive behavioral approach is really confirms the whole notion that our thoughts is our reality, as Abdu'l-Baha says, and the whole notion of working with one's thought, and all the writings and the prayers are there to modify and basically give us new patterns of thought. And every thought that we think, it rewires our brain. So every time you say a prayer, which are a lot of thoughts in it, it rewires your brain. That's how we are supposed to become a new race of man, by becoming as close as possible to the way the God thinks. So that's how we become godlike. So there was this mechanic who was very, very, very good in really fixing his own cars. So he had a lot of nice, expensive cars, and he would fix all of them. One day he wants to start his car. It doesn't matter what he does, it doesn't get started. What do you think he's feeling?
Frustration.
Yeah, okay. What do you think he wants to do?
Fix his car.
Fix it. What would be that he keeps doing? Trying and trying. It goes back and it doesn't work. So finally he thinks, maybe I should take it to my friend who's a very good mechanic and he will fix it for me. So he calls him and the friend says, yeah, bring your car, see what happens. So, and he tells his friend, he says, you know how good I am in fixing the cars, but I really have tried everything and I can't fix it. It would be really, really special if you can tell me that you can do something about it. So he looks under the hood and he says, I think I can fix it. What do you think the guy thinks? Oh my goodness, he can fix it. And how is he feeling? Good. Oh, very excited, right? You guys have to have, there are 300 words, over 300 words for feeling. So let's get a little bit past good and bad and stuff. Excited, agitated, you know. So he's feeling elated. And his intention is
to have us fix
him fix it. And what action he takes is, go ahead, fix it. He says, well, let me ask you this, how much are you going to charge for this whole thing? The guy says, $100. What do you think this guy thinks about $100 fixing the car that he doesn't know how to fix himself? Awesome. That is awesome. And he feels what? Happy. Happy. The thought is awesome. The feeling is static. I like that. And the intention is say yes before the guy changes his mind. And action is go for it. Go for it. He's standing there saying his prayers. God. And the guy says, okay, he takes a few steps back, the car is over there, he comes forward, now, bang! A kick in front of the car, and the engine starts. And then he says, $100. The guy looks at that, and then sees the kick, and the car running, and he thinks, this guy taking $100 from me for a kick? And he's feeling what?
Confused.
Cheated, confused, angry, mad, resentful, wants to negotiate. And he says, what? You're charging $100 for a kick? He says, no. I'm not charging $100 for the kick. It's only $1 for the kick. $99 for where to kick. And I think every morning that when we wake up and Baha'u'llah says bring yourself into account each day and make sure your next day is better than the first one, he means give yourself a kick in the right place every day. And sometimes we have to go to a therapist to figure out where to kick ourselves.
Every morning.
Every morning, if we want this day to be better than the other, we better find some good places to kick ourselves, otherwise we'll be, as the Persians say, and we'll be very happy. It's nothing to do with happiness.
Can you translate that for the English-speaking people?
Well, the Persians have a wonderful sense of humor, I think. One of the areas that people bring to me every time when they are living in their own la-la land is they say, well, I am very happy. And I say, well, you know what Abdu'l-Baha says? He says, cow is the best example of being happy in the world that it is, because it really is the best philosopher, the way he understands the world and life, but no reason to be unhappy. So just because we are happy by ourselves is not something that we can be very proud of. It would be nice if the whole family is happy together. That's something to be looking at. The whole family is happy. And it would be fantastic if the whole community is happy together. That's something that you say, oh, okay, so that's just a little bit further than just one person. And guess what? The definition of good in the mind of Abdu'l-Baha, he says, if you're the only one who's happy, you're the farthest from truth. And if you got a few people around you that are also agreeing with you and happy, you're a little better. If you have a whole city coming along with you, then you're okay. But if you have the whole world, you know that whatever it is that you're thinking is good. So that's the definition of good in the faith. And because both science and religion is relative, changes all the time. We have the progressive revelation of values in religion. Okay? Values and virtues are two different things. What is one virtue?
Kindness, virtue.
Okay, virtue, kindness,
Justice.
love, right? At the time of Moses, we had tribes of Israel, this tribe or whatever it is. But what would these people be loving to? What did they do with the people in their own tribe?
They were loving to
They were loving. What did they do with the people outside of the tribe? They were killing, pillage them, and rape them, because the value was only the people of the tribe are going to be really privileged to have our love. Anybody outside of it, they're not. And we have a village mentality, a tribal culture right now. Actually, I see it among the Baha'is. Have you ever been to a gathering that you enter a funeral, whatever it is, the place is not already assigned, you're going to end up somebody sitting at the edge, and then a whole rope that they're holding, and you approach it, and if you're not in the tribe, they're going to say, oh, it's saved. Have you ever seen that, experienced that? It's saved. Means you're not in my tribe, go somewhere else. And what is the mindset that we are not seeing the advantage and the privilege of getting to know somebody new? We need to apply the values of the faith, which is oneness of all humanity. See no evil, hear no evil, all of that, and then express our virtues in that context. Then that becomes the two together. Kicking ourselves every day means trying to figure out what is it one thing that I can do today that I can be better than yesterday, and where do we go for it? We go to the writings, because that's where the compass is. Otherwise, everything becomes like the frog and the frying pan. How many people know about the story of the frog and the frying pan? Okay, nobody knows about it. Probably a couple of people know about it. So you put the frog in a hot pan, what does the frog do?
It jumps.
It says, oh, this is too hot. Feeling what? Scared, wants to take to safety, and jumps up. So I'm doing this by the way, so I want you to become really an expert in understanding your own self in the context of these 5 zones. Because these are the 5 zones of knowing our own self, both in the context of the writings and also in the context of science. Okay? So you can be your own observer. Now next time you take the frog, this time, and you put the frog in a nice cool pan. And what does the frog do? And then you start warming that pan up gradually. What does the frog do?
Acclimates.
Exactly. That's going to be the frog who would never ever really register any danger. Never. And a lot of us are like that. Actually, all of us here right now are in the middle of a very boiling kind of a big pan, and we don't even register it. And we don't even know what are some of the stuff that is going around us that are alarming. Going to the writing means going to the compass. Going to a high gathering to be a place where you would be evaluating yourself or experiencing yourself in the light of the compass. Otherwise, how would we know? Some years ago, I had a very spirited young woman came to me, big, and she had a very dark sense of humor. She was married to an old guy. And she was very, very unhappy in her marriage. With my clients or patients, I don't tell them I'm a Baha'i because I sit in a place of power, and I don't want to put them in a disadvantage. They might be not happy or comfortable to tell me that they are not Baha'is. I want them to be okay. Outside of my office, they had a flyer which was very striking. They had a picture of a tombstone, and there was a crack on it. Somebody was coming out of the graveside or something like that. It was very attractive. So she walks out of my office and she sees this thing and she picks it up. She didn't know whether it was for me, for whoever it was, but there were many therapists in there. So she goes to this meeting and she finds out that I'm a Baha'i. The minute she says that I'm seeing Keyvan, oh yeah, well, but she doesn't tell me that. She becomes very interested in the faith, and then she becomes a Baha'i. And then she tells me. But this now changes her relationship with her old husband. So the husband sees her in her new environment, and he thinks she's going to go to hell. He's a very devout Christian. And what is he feeling for her? Fear. Worry, fear, exactly. Oh, she's going to go to hell. And his intention is what?
To save her.
Save her from that. And his action is do whatever he can. Gottman has a very interesting observation of that. One of them is being willing to accept influence. Good marriages, people accept influence from one another. They welcome influence. You want me to put this pan over here from now on, not over there? Okay, that's a possibility. It's no big deal. Pick your battles, you don't fight over everything. So you sort them out. You make sure that you don't have too many battles to fight. Could you please close the window? You have to connect it. Is this something I want to fight over? Or something I should let it do? So you decide. And it's good not to have too many. So she does not have any space for him to accept his influence. He's not having any way in, no way. And the only thing they have in common, I realize, is dogs, love of dogs. And she came actually with this sense of mourning for a dog that she had, that this dog died. After 2 years, she's still mourning the death of that dog. So the two of them love dogs. And these dogs, three, a big one of them, they sleep on top of the bed when they go to bed. She's in the next world, by the way. Whenever I tell her story, I send a prayer her way. She started going to these Baha'i meetings, and every time she would bake this big, luscious cakes, husband would look at this whole coming and going, and he was thinking, she's sure gonna go to hell. And he's really feeling worried for her, and he doesn't have the skill to really tell her the way he wants to tell her, and she just basically pushes him aside. So one day she comes in and she had made this big chocolate cake, big luscious chocolate cake, put it on the counter. She comes in and she sees there is a big chunk of the chocolate cake gone. And she thinks what?
Her husband?
That darn crazy guy, he ruined my cake so I won't be able to go to the meeting tonight. And she's feeling what? Really mad, and she wants to what? Give it to him.
Kill it.
And by the way, she was big and he was old, and I told her, you never ever touch him. Do not touch him, because I was afraid that she would do that. That was a contract. So he's in the garage, she's in the kitchen, and she's fuming. So he walks in and she goes to go attack him, and the dog walks between his leg, and the dog's face is covered with chocolate. And she told me, Keyvan, dogs cannot have chocolate. I said, why? She said, well, because they die if they have chocolate. So she says, feeding the dog, immediately her thought like that goes, oh, my dog is gonna die. How's she feeling for the dog? And both of them, the husband and wife, both of them scared for the dog. Their intention is to take the dog to their bed. And they jump in the car, then rushing for the... This really should tell all of us, it's not about what happens. It's never about what happens. It's about what? The way we think about what happens. The way we think about what happened. I can just say this for the rest of the tonight, and I think it would be a good gathering. It's not about the way we think about things. And that's why we have the right. There's another very good example. Years ago, I had a patient, she was a lawyer. She came and she said, I really need you to help me with my relationship with my husband. It's going very bad, it's going south. So I thought, okay, so let me see if assess what is her mindset at this time? So I asked her the question. I said, you're a lawyer? She said, yes. I said, well, when you go to the court and then other lawyers are there, one of these lawyers stretches their hand towards you. What do you feel? What do you think she said?
It's probably no threatening if you're an attorney.
Okay, that's friendly towards the attorney. And what would be the intention? Shake this guy's hand. And what would be the action? And then, but very much to my surprise, she said, if somebody stretched their hand to me, I would feel very distrustful. I said, why? She said, because they're all jerks. And I cannot trust them.
That's what I said.
But this is where it's coming from. Where is it coming from? It's odd, because that's how, for whatever reason, maybe her experience, maybe her upbringing, maybe the atmosphere, maybe the thing that she's seen. Basically, that's what she's prone to do that. We need to take responsibility for the way we think. Our thoughts are not God-given anything. Our thoughts are our choices that we make to think about other people, about the community, about God, about whoever it is. These are our choices, selections of thoughts. What the writings are alternative thoughts. That's all it is. The writings are alternative thoughts. You open a prayer, gives you alternative thought. You can accept it, you can reject it. You can put it into action, you can just read it and lip service and move on. But every time you open the writing, your thoughts are challenged because we are not really godlike as much as we want to be. It is our choice. So we have to take responsibility for it, and then we need to be humble enough to be willing to accept, welcome, influence by others in consultation, from the writings, from our spouses, so that it will create an environment where there is an exchange of blood into the system. Otherwise, the system is going to die. When the blood is not flowing, dead.
In your experience of many years doing this, is conscious thoughts stronger or subconscious thought based on previous experiences or past experiences?
Of course, past experiences affect our thoughts. I'm not a good swimmer, and I have had always experience drowning myself because I just went outside of my own, comfort zone. So naturally, I had an experience with water, or people have experiences with dogs, or people have experiences with the other people. We have experience in their life that can shape their way they think. But our job is to be always very vigilant about the patterns of thought that we select and continue, and then be willing to change them. Otherwise, we'll be hanging ourselves from our neck with our thoughts. There are so many wonderful examples. One of the best one I know is this hunter who likes to hunt monkeys. So the hunter needs to do the monkey psychology, right? So monkeys, what do they like?
Banana.
Banana. Whenever you want to take somebody captive, you present them something they like. And Baha'u'llah tells us that we have two selves, a lower self and a higher self. Psychology generally deals with the lower self. You never go to a psychotherapist and they say, tell me your spiritual powers. We don't even know what it is. They just say, what's your problem? Who did something wrong to you? What's your pain? Where is it coming from? Tell me about this, tell me about that. Basically, they're very much experienced in asking this part of you. But our ladder relies in this part. That's where we ascend. So whenever we like something, we are going to be susceptible for being entrapped. That's why getting married, because we fell in love with somebody and everybody else says, no, this is not the right person, we better pay some attention, because when we are really in love, our senses and our judgment, it's just really in the back. So this, of course, this monkey, this hunter knows the monkey likes the banana, so takes a gourd, makes a hole in it, and only monkey can put his hand inside like that and get that banana out. So goes and ties this gourd to the tree, and he goes way back there. So the monkey comes around, he's hungry, and he smells. The sense of smell is the five senses. follows his nose, and he goes finds a gourd, and then he's feeling what?
Hungry.
Excited, hungry, and he wants to
Get the
get the banana. His action is get the banana. He wants to pull his hand out, and now his hand is a lot bigger. It's not going to come out. So his hand is stuck in that. He can see the hunter coming for him. He thinks, this guy is going to get me any moment. The death is coming my way. He's feeling what?
Scared. Fear.
He wants to run away. The problem is, and please pay attention, there's a big difference between human beings and animals.
You can't let go.
Animals have senses, they can think, they can feel, they can have intention and action, but they cannot think about what they think. That means there's no reflection, imagination, there's no consultation process available to animals. All of them are unique to the human beings because we have a soul and we also have the responsibility for our actions. You don't go and kick a dog for coming and eating all your chickens that you just put on the stove, and then the dog reaches up there and grabs up everything. You don't kick them, you just realize that next time you got to put the chicken somewhere else. But if your husband did that, unless you had other reason to be very happy that he did that. So hunter comes and takes the monkey, and he goes and cooks him and makes a good meal. What the monkey could not change was his thought. That's the source of attachment. Baha'u'llah tells in the writings that the whole notion of detachment is not about being poor and not having anything. That's not detachment. You can be very rich, you can have dishes out of gold and silver. The Bab ate out of silver, and that was against it in Islam. That was one of the changes of a whole tradition in the past, norms of the past, because he wanted to change the norms. Actually, Baha'u'llah came to change the norms. So we are all revolutionaries as far as I'm concerned. We are. We are here in the forefront of a whole movement that are going against the grain of every norm that is out there, because the norms are basically destroying the whole social fabric. Doesn't matter what you call it. I was talking with one of the Baha'i youth, and he says, Keyvan, are you asking me not to drink? It's impossible. All my colleagues are sitting at the table, they're just gobbling it down. How can I ruin their fun? He said, well, you better ask Baha'u'llah that. Which one do you think is more important to you? Him or them? So you make your choices. Going to come up with a way. Changing the thought is where we accept and welcome influence. And we need to practice that muscle. This story came to my mind. This guy was happily walking on a cliff, and he was a big, nice, accomplished mountain climber, whatever it is. And all of a sudden he slips and he falls, and halfway between the top and the bottom, which is a big ravine, he grabs hold of a root of a tree. And he looks down and says, oh my goodness, if I fall down, my biggest piece would be my ear. The Persians say that. He just feeling really what? And he wants to
save himself.
He wants help. And his action is finally, for the first time, he's not even a believer, but he just, this is the time. I mean, they said that everybody becomes a believer in the trenches, soldiers. He says, oh God, please help me. I am going to be dead. And this branch is not going to be holding me. What am I going to do here? A voice comes from up above and says, let go of the branch. And he listens to that, and he looks down, and he thinks, that doesn't make sense. That is not making sense. So he doesn't do that, and he basically asks again, oh God, please help me. And the voice comes again, let go of the branch. He cannot settle with that, because he is thinking, and what he knows and what he he believes that he's right, does not match with this let go of the branch. I mean, that's not very far from some of the things that we are told in the writings. A lot of some stuff that we are told in the writing looks to us like let go of the branch. You know, your husband and wife, you know, you're having a bad divorce, and one of them hogs everything and runs away with it, the other one that doesn't have anything, and the friends come over and say, just don't worry about it, God will take care of it. What do you mean by God will take care of it? You know, having nothing to go by, no, they get mad, and the whole thing goes south. So let go of the branch is not, that it's said easy, but it's not easy done. So we're going to work on that. This whole notion of thought becomes very important. The first thing, Gottman, by the way, in this book, 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, which I would definitely recommend for premarital counseling, and also there's a whole training that they have developed for lay people. I went and I took it because I just wanted to know how they're arranging this whole thing. It's pretty good. I would make some changes in it. I definitely would integrate the writings into it, because otherwise it's not enough. So he talks about harsh startups. And what does harsh startups mean? I will give you one example he brings here. He said, my partner is often very critical of me. So what does that look like? You haven't had a chance to fold all the laundry or something like that. Something that was your task. And the other one comes in, instead of saying, oh honey, you must have been so busy today because the laundry is still sitting over here. Do you want me to help you with that? That would be nice. That would be someone who is opening themselves for interaction, for a give and take, which is nice. You might say, you didn't do the clothing? They're still there? I mean, what's wrong with you? And that is the beginning of pushing someone out, basically off the cliff. What's wrong with you has something to do with attacking someone's personality. It's very hard not to take it personally when somebody tells you what's wrong with you. There's so many other ways of choosing to share your thoughts. And that's one of the elements that Gottman put a magnifying glass on it, how people frame their complaints. The way you know it is you really need to be very aware of the feelings of the people around you. Did that make them nervous? Did that make them happy? Did that make them upset? And that's really a good place to put your finger on the pulse. Abdu'l-Baha was a master of making sure people would be happy. I love the story of the first Baha'i woman who went to America at the time, 1912, when Abdu'l-Baha was here, Otsi Khanum Ashra. Anybody knows Otsi Khanum Ashra? Very courageous woman, and she really served the faith in so many ways. She was younger at that time. She was studying here. And when Abdu'l-Baha was in New York, one of the attendants of Abdu'l-Baha approached her and said, you know, Abdu'l-Baha would really appreciate a woman tidying up his room in the hotel. He's not comfortable with anybody walking in there. So would you mind being that? She said, oh, I feel so honored. Oh my goodness. She said, oh, what a blessing and an honor. She was exhilarated and wanted to do it. So she said, okay. So she goes there. Abdu'l-Baha leaves the room. She tidies everything up. And one day she comes and sees that Abdu'l-Baha's comb was, a couple of tooths was broken. So she's feeling very excited about going in there. She goes out and she buys him another comb. She comes and puts it in the room. So the day comes to the end, she's standing at the door, and Abdu'l-Baha comes back after a long day. And the first thing he does when he goes to his desk, he sees the comb. And he starts talking. He says, oh, you noticed that my comb was broken, and you bought me a new comb. And she's crying, this woman, her tears coming down. Abdu'l-Baha says, and watch, I am combing my beard with it right now, this new comb. I mean, can you imagine how she felt? And he says, and also my hair. And then he takes the old comb and he brings it to her. He says, here, I'm going to give you my old comb, and there's even some of my hair in it. She thought that was the wealth of the world was given to her. And of course, she treasured that for years and then gave it to one of her relatives who was serving in Holy Land for many years. I mean, this kind of attention, knowing what really brings the person all the joy of the world and taking joy out of that. You know how many of us go to the parking lot, right? And all day long, look for a place to go exercise and kill ourselves on a treadmill. We go to the supermarket parking lot, we want to be the closest possible to the door, so we won't be walking more than 5 steps. If it is 10, it's not good. So, turning around and around to see where you can grab the parking space and just go in there before somebody else grabs it. And you say, oh yeah, I was such a winner, that was great. I mean, how about looking around and seeing somebody who is looking for a parking, and as you're pulling out, wanting to make sure that they would get the spot, their children or something like that. Getting joy out of that, to leave the space for somebody else. How would that go? Is it impossible? It's all about the way we think. It's all about the way we think. And marriage, of all things, is not the place of competition at all. It's a place that you welcome influence. The more you welcome influence, the better. I would like for you to continue on reading more about the soft startup and harsh startup. In Persian, they call it wisdom, hikmat, the way you talk, gozasht, all kinds of things that we have in the language. And in the writings, of course, we have a lot about forgiveness. All of that is part of this process of knowing how to manage our own faults, so we don't get into the zone of feeling justified to be angry with others, and not seeing ourselves as a victim. Anybody who feels that they are a victim, they should worry about how they behave. The moment you think you are a victim, you need to be worried about how you will be behaving. You guys know the story of Cinderella, right? Cinderella had a stepmother and a stepsister, right? As Baha'is, as anybody, we look from outside, we see Cinderella as a victim. We see her because she's been what? Injustice, she's not getting food, people are not attending to her, making her work all day, they're not nice to her, so we see her as a victim, and we see the step-parents, whatever, as a villain. We like to help her. And so that gives us opportunity of justice. Right? We are put in the place of justice. The same was in the faith, actually, in Baha'is of Iran. They always played, what the Baha'u'llah did, what Abdu'l-Baha did, they used the power of meekness. That's one wing of justice. The other wing is us, the rest of the world, who need to rise and defend them. So people who are meek, they can stay meek. Otherwise they could become the villain themselves and go shoot everybody, go around. These two wings are necessary in the faith as the balance of justice. The Bab, when he was on the board of the ship going to Mecca, and that nasty sheikh was saying all kinds of obscenities, the Bab said, oh, forgive him, don't worry about him. But the captain was the one who said, no, you need to shut up to this guy. And finally the captain said, I'm going to throw you off board. And the Bab said, no, please, forgive him. The captain said, okay, I'll wait for a while. But no, the guy was not budging. So finally the captain calls the people and says, throw him overboard. And the Bab sees this is happening, he goes and embraces this mad guy. So the captain does not throw him to the ocean. And the captain likes the Bab, doesn't want to really kill the Bab, so he says, the guy, you go sit over there, in one move, you're going to be going off. When you look at that story, you see again that whole notion, and for his power of meekness to be manifested in the world, the captain needed to take the action. Without the captain, the Bab would not be able to be meek. And that is the balance. So that's what the Baha'is are wrong. We need to be the one who does the role of the captain. Because we're here in our own merry life. Nobody's bothering us, so we should speak up. Gottman comes and talks about 4 horses of apocalypse as one of the red flags that can be in any relationship. The first one is criticism, where the Guardian mentions criticism. The only place he mentions calamity. Vicious criticism means really our mind constantly goes about finding faults. Instead of see no evil, hear no evil, we're practicing find all the evil and some more. And then we put ourselves in a prison of our own self, and we feel miserable. And because we feel miserable, basically we see ourselves as a victim, we decide that we need to take revenge. And then we become what? The villain. That's why it's dangerous to see ourselves as a victim. We never are a victim. Why? Why we are never a victim? That's the reason Baha'u'llah gave us Abdu'l-Baha. That's the reason we have Baha'u'llah. That's the reason we have the Guardian. They all were at the place of meekness, but they were never victims. They were wrong. Baha'u'llah called himself this wronged one. We never said, I'm a victim. Because what? Because the powers of the Almighty, the winds of the mighty God was under their wing. It wasn't about the wing. Abdu'l-Baha said, this is a broken winged bird, and its flight is very slow. He doesn't come and say, oh God, give me a big wing. He says, assist him. Assist him. It is out of his assistance. We need to attract that force, not to become God ourselves and make the judgment. Because that would break the whole system, the body goes dead. Marriage would die. God was very observant about the spirit of criticism in any marital relationship from the very beginning means, watch out, divorce is coming. In response to criticism, obviously if somebody comes and says, what's wrong with you? Whatever you touch is going to be broken. Well, obviously after a while, the sense of self made me say, well, defend myself. Say, what's wrong with you? Can't you see anything positive? And then I will start pulling myself away. Because who wants to be, unless they're sadistic or something, who wants to be in an atmosphere where everybody is picking at them? Let alone marriage, in a place where you're supposed to be intimate with one another, and then later on have sex with someone who just you don't feel even close and safe with. It's impossible. So criticism, defensiveness follows, and the third one is the deadliest one. It's called contempt. And what is contempt?
Contempt or contempt?
Contempt. Contempt. Contempt is a combination of thinking, I know better. Who are you? Who are you to say that? I know better. I am wiser. I'm more perfect. And you're nobody. That's contempt. And expressing it in any form is deadly. It's really the deadliest of all the attitudes and patterns of thinking that one brings into any relationship. And Gottman says this really does the most. And then finally, the fourth horse is stonewalling. Stonewalling means Persians call it qah kardan. Like, I'm not talking, I'm not looking at you, I don't make any contact, I just don't want to get in the zone with you, I'm not here. And then you just go around playing this game, not answering, not talking. And it's very, very destructive. Just like one part of the body basically closes up itself, the body is going to go dead. Marriage is, Abdu'l-Baha says, it's a third entity, it's a spiritual entity. It's like a plant. You need to water it constantly. And if you just subject it to stonewalling, no blood going into the system. You don't want to come to that point that people feel uncomfortable and unsafe around you. That is deadly. No excuse for it. I want to give you an experience of relaxation exercise. How many people have ever felt anxious? Everybody feels anxious. That's a universal thing. So dealing with anxiety, dealing with uptightness, dealing with worries, not always we succeed in changing our thoughts because it might not be available to us, but we can enter from action. So I'm going to give you an experience of how that feels. So I'm going to give you a very quick relaxation imagery exercise. Your foot is on the ground, you're connecting with Mother Earth, as our Native American friends tell us. And I want you to take 4 or 5 deep, slow breaths. You go from the belly, it's like a baby. So you push the diaphragm down, so when you exhaling, the diaphragm itself pushes the air out. So you don't have to work hard on the breathing out. So you go like this. And every time you breathe in and you breathe out, you allow your shoulders just to drop a little bit further down. Take another deep breath. And breathe out. One more time. Take a deep, slow breath. And notice how already your body feels calm. Now start checking different muscles in your body and see if you can shut and open the muscles of your toes in the shoe. Tighten them and then loosen them. And then take a deep breath as you tighten those muscles. Really tighten and take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, relax those muscles and just feel the relaxation in them. So the muscles of your legs all the way up to your buttocks. See if you can tighten these muscles and take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, relax these muscles. Muscles of your hands and fingers. So open and shut them several times and then make a very, very tight fist. And take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, open your hand and you feel really the warmth of the blood going all the way to the tip of your fingers. The muscles of your back, your shoulders, see if you can rotate your shoulders a few times, up and down, and then push your shoulders back, tighten those and take a deep, slow breath. And as you exhale, just let your shoulders drop. And now the muscles of your face, face has so many muscles. See if you can pretend you have a fly sitting on the tip of your nose and you want to move this fly away without touching your face. So squeeze every single muscle you know in your face, your eyes, your lips, your jaw, your cheek, everything. Just squeeze it as tight as you can and take a deep, slow breath. And when you exhale, you just feel very heavy almost sitting in your chair. Without opening your eye, I want you to imagine in your mind that you're walking somewhere is one of your favorite spots. It can be a beach, it can be a forest, it can be a meadow. Notice the position of the sun. Is it in the morning? Is it midday? Is it in the sunset, dusk? See if you can smell the air. Are there any fragrances? Any dust? Any herbs? The smell of the ocean? Just register that. And now, all of a sudden, you feel a wind, a very, very strong wind, and it lifts you up, and almost you feel like a very light leaf and a feather. You're just flying, and you are conscious of the journey that this beautiful feather is making throughout different spaces. You see the earth under your feet, and you travel, see the oceans, you see the forests, just pay attention to how you feel. And you come all the way to the foot of this mountain, and very slowly and gradually you just land on one of the branches of this big, beautiful tree. And as you settle and you have a moment to look around, far, far in the distance, up on the hill, at the end of a very long, long, beautiful stairway, you see the shrine of the Baha. You see the figure of Abdu'l-Baha standing up there and motioning for you to come forward. Just register what your heart feels, how your body feels. What your wishes are, what your thoughts are, what your hopes are. Take your time. You can count backward from 4 to 1 before you are ready to open your eyes. Okay, in your handout, you have a page called Listening. It's very interesting, the components of this listening is different than the talking. The whole aim of listening in here is to understand the other person. In the faith, we don't make the whole notion of right or wrong as the center of our consultation or discussion or conversation. It's not about right or wrong. Because once we do that, then always there's going to be a lose-win. And in family, in marriage, there is no lose-win. Either it's a win-win or a lose-lose. Baha'u'llah says in the hidden words, when two people argue, what happens? Both of them are wrong. Both are wrong. There is no winner. So go with the mindset of understanding the other person. Be open. Take your prize to be coming together and creating unity rather than one wins over the other. There is no right or wrong. We don't have any access, believe it or not, in the faith, there is no access to the right. The only thing we have is, as a result of consultation, we come to an agreement, which means for that moment. And even that, we have to put it into test. And if it proves to be right, then we say, oh yeah, then our consultation took us to somewhere that we can manage to work. Science is like that. You put it into test. And if it didn't, then you go back to the drawing table and figure it out again. But do it in unity. The prize is unity. The prize is not who is right, who's wrong in a family. I did a program, by the way, for 5-6 years at the public schools in Pomona, teaching empowerment, conflict resolution, mediation. Nicole sitting over here, she came and she's supportive. And we did actually present it at the mentorship conference together about the assessment of that program. The star was the favorite of all the students. The stars and the stories I told, they said was one of the favorite of all these students, junior high and high school. So when somebody comes to you and wants to tell you their story, I came home, it was 10 o'clock, and didn't see you there to your child. This is those of you who asked about how to talk with the adult or grown-up children. I thought, where is Johnny? I felt what? Worried. I wanted to call you. I called your phone, no answer. Another hour passed, and I did not see you either. Your curfew was 10 o'clock, now it was 11:30, and nobody was there. And I thought, something happened. I was feeling scared to death. I was thinking about calling the police. And I just thought maybe I should wait. So it becomes 1 o'clock. And you're not still there. And I'm thinking, this is not like you. You would not be so inconsiderate. That is not like you. That is not. I just absolutely could not calm myself. I felt so scared, so flooded. And the minute I reached to call the police, you opened the door and came in. And you say, I knew that if I say anything at that moment, I might say something I would regret for the rest of my life. So I decided not to say anything at that moment. I decided to go. Saw you coming in. I thought, oh, thank God, you're safe. I felt relieved. I wanted to yell at you and hug you at the same time. And I just controlled myself and went upstairs. I want to have a chance to talk. We need to talk. This cannot happen again. So that's the story, that's the way you tell your story. It's safe, right? Nobody feels insulted. But you need to be honest, you need to be saying what you have to say. You cannot just hide it because you're afraid the person is going to get, out of control. The person who listens, they need to listen until you finish. So this is listen to understand. And then this one is suspending judgment. That is very important, by the way. Some people say, don't judge. I think human brain is created to judge. There's no way you cannot judge. It's impossible. What they mean really is a layman's way of saying, don't make that the final judgment. Basically, hold. It's just like having a consultation with your own self. You're brainstorming with yourself. It could be this, it could be that, but I don't know what it is. So at least I need to wait till I conclude what it is. So suspending judgment is okay, as long as we don't stay with one judgment. I have all array of them. You can even write it down. And then finally you say, is there anything you want to say? After I say all this to my son or daughter or whatever, they listen, they have a very open body language, not like this. And they say, is there any more? And that is so important because then I feel very safe. I'm not fighting with my own thoughts, tangled in my head. We all don't have the skills to say exactly what we want to say at the moment, especially when we're flooded. We might say stuff that is not the way we want to say it. We need a little chance to go back and maybe even fix it. So you say, is there any more? Yeah. And then, so you invite more. And the person, no, that's it. And please don't make it too long, because people cannot listen, especially with our kind of attention right now. 30 seconds is the limit. So then you summarize. And this is where you really need to practice the ability to be thinking from the other person's perspective, empathy. So you say exactly what they said with the same sentiment as they said it. So you say, okay, so what I understand is I came very late, and initially you were so worried, and you thought, why am I here? And then you wanted to call me, and you called me, and I didn't answer, and then another hour goes by, and I still am not there, and then you were even more worried. The key is to look at the other person's face. If they go like this, and they are really acknowledging that you really understood what they were saying, then you're on the right track. If you start saying, especially putting stuff of your own in there to make it less important, they're going to say, you can tell. Make sure that you are a very good listener. And then finally you say, you're now called 1 o'clock and I'm not there, and you literally thought something really bad happened to me. And you exaggerated on their behalf. And you almost had a heart attack. And as long as they say like that, you're okay. And you say, you just decided that that's it, you have to call the police, or go like that. And the minute you wanted, I walked in. Did I understand this correctly? And that's so important to say. And by then, that person probably wants to hug you and kill you at the same time. Then it's time for asking open-ended questions. There are 2 ways of asking questions. You ask a 5-year-old, tell me about your knee. You just fell on the ground and they scratched your knee. They're not going to be able to tell you anything, because that's a 5-year-old. You're going to ask close-ended question, which is, honey, is it your knee? Yes. Did you just fall? Yes. Was it anything sharp in it? No. So just go like that. Yes, no, yes, no. If the answer, that's a close-ended question. An open-ended question, you make it possible for them to say whatever. You say, I thought I left a note somewhere on your desk about what time I might be coming if I don't get a ride. Can you tell me if that was not okay with you? What was I supposed to be doing? What happened to that? Can you share with me? Now we're starting to have a conversation. It's not a defensive kind of way, I'm going to prove myself right, I'm going to prove you wrong. It's an exploration. So this exploration spirit is very important. In your handout, there is this wonderful, it says, beware lest ye contend with anyone, nay strive to make him aware of the truth with kindly manner and most convincing exhortation. The attitude is the spirit of how we communicate. I can say yes in so many ways. I can say yes. I can say yeah. I can say yes. You can change it so many ways to say yes. Always about the form is the same, is the word yes, but the spirit will be very different. You have to become so in tune to yourself that you know when you're not in the loving spirit frame. You need to know that. And when that is ruling over you, that is not a good time to go talk to somebody. Just take your time, go say some prayers. Go change the air, go, I don't know, cut the tree, go do the garden, I don't know whatever, go wash the dishes, something. But don't go near somebody because you're prickly at that moment. You don't want to be going near somebody when you're prickly. Everybody can be prickly at times. As much as you can find examples of listening from the stories of Abdu'l-Baha, I think Howard Colby Ives in Portals to Freedom, how many of you have read that book? I just love that book. There's so many wonderful examples of his observation of Abdu'l-Baha. The Persian believers around the central figures of the faith, I wish they had a different way of recording their memoirs. I remember Mr. Bannerly was said, I go and read the memoirs of Hazrat called Mr. Samandari, and he says, oh yeah, Abdu'l-Baha said that joke, it was so nice, we all laughed. And he says, I said, what is the joke? Tell me the joke. But they don't tell you the joke, they just tell you how wonderful it was. But the Western believers, Julia Thompson, Laura Getzinger, Mae Maxwell, the Howard Colby Ives, cheer for you the whole scene with their words. That's an art. Journaling is a wonderful way of assessing ourselves, bringing ourselves into account each day, at the end of the day. And it's one of the most powerful ways of observing our own self. Taking some time and just writing what you observe, what you thought about that, the important things, and being able to see yourself in that, become the observer of yourself. It's very, very, very helpful. I included for you in here the form for consultation. I took all these statements from the writings, actually, to make this form. And for example, when you consult with others, how often do you stay focused on the subject? And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 is rarely, and then 5 is usually. And you know whether you have to practice on this or not. It's all it is. It's not about you winning or losing. It's just where you are. Stay focused on the subject. It means, for example, you start wanting to say something to your spouse about the importance of throwing the trash in the trash can, not somewhere else around it. Something simple. I went to the bathroom and the trash is everywhere. My goodness, the bathroom smells like this. Don't you ever, nobody even taught you how to be clean? Look at that. And then on top of it, when you go to the bathroom, please close the door. Would you stay on one subject? Don't bring in the whole package into it. When you consult with others, how often do you graciously accept the other's views if you believe they are right? This one I want you to do maybe together with each other and ask the other person, because you can give yourself some grace, but maybe your partner says, well, honey, I don't think so. Maybe you want to hear what I have to say about that? So you would be very interested. Of course, I would love to. And then you make it nice and soft and tender so they can pay attention. Are you going to do the dishes? This is a sentence. So this is the form and spirit, right? So the form is, are you going to do the dish? So I want a volunteer to put it into this spirit. You're angry that you have done them every night last week and you think it is his or her turn. How would you say this sentence? Go ahead.
Are you going to do the dishes?
No, that's too. Well, that was very nice, actually. After you try it, you cannot be nasty. On the spirit that you choose you're going to be putting this sentence, this form, into a completely different frame. And it makes a big difference. Okay, any questions? So, I covered everything, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so let's quickly go over some of the things that we have. Baha'i inspired support. So tell me, did we talk about support? Did we talk about communication? Did we talk about parental role? Did we talk about manners and attitudes? Yeah. Criticism, did we talk about that? Anger management, did we talk about that? Rules in Baha'i consultation. Parenting all the children, we talked about that. Preparation for Baha'i marriage.
Oh, you didn't talk about
Not too much, but basically all of this that we talked about, you need to know the character of the person. That means that you cannot be going to movies to know the character of the person. Because then you'll be learning about the movie. You cannot having sex before marriage, because having sex is a very excitement-oriented thing. I love the AA. There's Sexaholic Anonymous, which is sex it is an addiction, by the way. We have it as an addiction. People get addicted to the intensity of the whole condition. And that intensity becomes a numbing element. And that is addiction, what it is. Addiction is an appetite that has gone array and is now functioning as a number. Numbs you. You're not feeling the pain, you're not feeling the agony, you're not feeling the anxiety. Basically, you don't want to feel the anxiety. So basically, you numb yourself. The alcohol is sex, it's drugs, it's internet, whatever it is that it is. The minute you see that you're out of control, you're not able to do what you're supposed to do, and the control is out of behind, you're going to pause and don't put one more foot in there, because coming out of it is very difficult. We had 75,000 suicides last year in the US. 75,000, that's a lot of people. And one of the best places to go to investigate another person is eating together with their family on their table in their home. Seeing the parent and their interaction of the parent with their own daughter or son. And have two eyes that you have, and have, how does this, close one eye and open the other. This time you open 4, 5, 6, 7 eyes. And be objective. And bring in your family, because they're the one who are responsible for giving you consent. If they don't know who these people are, how are they going to give you consent? And now we have reduced consent to the level of, writing to your parent on the other side of the world, we need to marry, and well, they don't know anything, to just give consent. But they don't know that poor person. They don't know the character of their own child after 10 years of being abroad either. So basically this marriage doesn't have any support. It just doesn't. And it's going to be on two-legged, and the two-legged building is not going to stand very long. So you have to have other kind of support. Maybe you can get some surrogate parents around the Baha'i community. And we need to become surrogate parents to one another, which are with the kids. What I'm saying is that we as Baha'is need to be available to our youth in our communities to be surrogate parents, to be offering an environment where they feel safe, they can come and talk to you, they can ask questions, they can be honest with themselves, honest with you. Why not? So that's one of our responsibilities. People who feel they treat you in a way that you don't feel good, the attitude is negative, the manner is negative, just run fast. Don't start compromising. And then if the person who has a negative attitude, but they have very good manners, who comes to your mind? Really not very kind and loving, and they don't want your well-being, but they know how to say the right thing. Salespeople, politicians, they really have a different goal, but they know how to sweeten it up for you, but you need to really, really pay attention. And that's why you need an environment where other people are looking in, so when you're in love and everything looks rosy, other people are looking and they say, well, that doesn't sound very rosy. So you listen. This happens a lot in marriages. You have people who have a wonderful intention, they love you, they have good intention, parents, and their manner, they don't know how to say it right. And they say it in a way that people get offended.
I'd say, you're saying it's good to have other people looking in on relationships so that they can see things. That given only parents are allowed to give consent to marriages, what is the role of people who are not parents to say or not say that someone is or is not the right person?
Very good question. Parents, unfortunately or fortunately, have this responsibility given to them by God. That very many parents, American parents, don't ever want to have that responsibility. That responsibility that they're responsible before God, not before you, not before the other, not responsible for pleasing their children. They're responsible before Baha'u'llah to say yes or no, because that He put that on their shoulder. It's a very, very weighty, very difficult responsibility. Other people, they don't have the responsibility, but you have your friend, you know, you go together on a picnic together, and then you come back and you say, you know, well, what do you think? You open the door, and then you say, well, this guy was really a jerk. You say, why? I mean, what did you see? You become curious. You need to know, and if you trust this friend, and you trust their judgment, and they've known you for years, I know you won't be taking anybody with you. So you take that as one of the suspended judgments that are up there. But it is good to consider that, because if somebody sees something, unless they're completely off, if there is something to it, you better know ahead of time, because you don't want to enter a transaction for the rest of your life that is going to be iffy. We did somewhat of attending to your questions by putting them ahead of time. This is something that constantly is worthy of our exploration and attention. Yes.
Since the participation and support has been so good for your talk, would you consider perhaps once a month or once every quarter we can do this?
On the condition. Well, thank you so much. You guys must be very tired, so please go have refreshments.
You are tired.
You must be tired.
You are tired.